You're married now.
Yeah, I got this heavy thing on. Yep.
How was that experience?
It's great. Are we doing this?
We're just going.
Is it on?
Sure.
Ooh, great. Yeah. So yeah, got married. I met my wife about 8 or 9 years ago. I was dating her when you came through high school, or I think I
Right at the
started dating her.
beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right at the beginning, because she knows you.
Yeah.
She met you.
She bring us cookies sometimes.
She did. Yeah, so she wanted me to propose like 6 years ago. And I took my time. I'm a slow mover when it comes to big life events like that. So we got engaged a year and a half ago during COVID. Wanted to wait until most of this stuff was over with so we could have have guests at our wedding. And so we got married at the end of May up in Wisconsin, and had about 180 people there. Family, friends. What's that?
I wasn't there.
You weren't, unfortunately, but you were there in spirit. I was thinking about you. Bennett was there to represent.
Bennett was there?
Yeah.
Bennett got the invite?
Bennett and Chip were there.
Oh my God.
So they were representing the team. But yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I had a bunch of friends from work, all my old friends growing up, my old teammates, my old coach, and then people I work with now, and also a bunch of family. It was great. It was perfect. So glad that's all that planning is over with. Yeah.
How did you know she was the one?
Ooh. Well, it's interesting. When I met her, so when I suffered some tough losses when I was just out of college. I dated a girl for about 8 years, through high school, through college. We broke up. It was tough. Like any, the end of any 8-year relationship will be tough. And then right after that, my dad died. And I was just out of college. I was just starting my teaching job. It was a really, really tough time in my life. And then I met, probably had you right after that. You came through, and I had you as my athlete right around when all that was happening. So for a couple years, life was just really hard. I was kind of going through the motions and struggling with those 2 losses. And then I met Julianne in Chicago, and right away I could just tell I was happier right away, just hanging out with her, and some of that like darkness that was in my life was fading away. And so I just knew that I liked spending time with her because it made me happy, and made me forget about the things I had just gone through. So I think that that was a time in my life when I needed someone. I needed someone, and she came through, and I keep a bunch of frogs, right? I'm a weird guy. I don't keep shoes or cool things like that. I keep living frogs. And she was okay. I told her that the night I met her, I told her that, because I got to get that out in the open, and she was totally cool with it. She was a biology major. So she kind of she wasn't interested, but she tolerated it, and she thought it was kind of cool. So, things like that made me realize, like, yeah, I am compatible with this person. I could see myself raising a family with her. Of course, it helps when she meets my family and she meets my friends, and my family and friends love her. That's important to me too. She would make an effort to come to my cross country meets and bring cookies and cupcakes for my runners. And that's a good, that means a lot to me. So all of those things kind of made me feel like she was the one. So, yeah.
I think a lot of kids that I've been talking to, it's very, at our age, I mean, we're pretty young at this point for like 22-year-olds, but it's hard to tell when it's going to be the actual right one. Like, I just ended like a long-term relationship recently, so I'm kind of in the back end of that with someone that I kind of thought, maybe I will spend my life with this person at some points, and then just one day it's just gone, and it's like, how do you navigate like who that person should be, and like what's good enough, and like, because it's never going to be perfect, right? And so like what characteristics make that in a person to know that's like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think human beings think that life is supposed to be like TV shows and movies, and it really is not. I don't know anyone who met someone that they ended up marrying, but when they met them, that moment on the spot, they were like, "Oh, that's the person. That's the one." I don't think that happens. Maybe in very rare situations, but I don't think that happens. I don't think that happens. I think I have friends who are married, right? And when they met their future wife or husband, they didn't like them. And then life changes, things change, and then they ended up marrying that person. So it's never as smooth and easy as it is in the movies. And like you said, nothing in life or nobody is perfect. And if you're looking for that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You have to, to me, the beauty in life is the lack of perfection. It's the flaws, and it's the scars and the flaws that make us different and build our character. And that's, I'm the person I am today mostly because of the tough things I went through. And if you're looking for a perfect person or a perfect job or a perfect house, you're not going to find it. And you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed. And so I think it's really important to accept the imperfections of things and almost embrace them and almost respect those things. And in a way, almost be proud of those things. You're 21 years old. You're talking about people your age. I'm 36 and I just got married. When hope she doesn't hear this, but when I met her, I didn't know she was the one. I was in the middle of some tragedies I was going through, and she was that support for me that I needed at the time. And our love for each other grew. It grew over time. And it's all about, the journey or the process. So, for young people, I think it's easy to think, oh, I'll meet this person and sparks will fly and my heart will flutter the moment I speak to them. I don't buy that. I just don't. I think, you have to go through hard times with the person. You have to see the good and the bad of the person. And like I was saying before, embrace the good and embrace the bad. Everybody has flaws, and it's okay. It's good to, I think, embrace those things and just accept them and be okay with them. You mentioned also, oh man, what else did you say? You said, finding a person, who is that person supposed to be? Yeah, and you can't change people, and it's not, and you don't have the right to change people. People need to figure themselves out for themselves. And I think what I've learned when it comes to relationships is absolutely, relationships are not perfect. Romantic relationships, friendly relationships, family relationships, they are not perfect. When it comes to romantic relationships, what I've learned is you have to really evaluate, are you compatible with this person? You're not going to get along 24/7. Nobody's perfect. But when life gets tough, when you have a child, when money gets tight, when you have problems with the house and you need to pay money to get the plumbing fixed, we're going through that right now. It is frustrating. But during those times, it's not always going to be pretty, but are you compatible? Can you as a team get through those tough times successfully? It ain't going to be perfect, but can you get along? Can you be compatible and get through those tough times? And if you can, then I think you can have a great life together. But I'm also saying all this as a newlywed. I've been married for 3 weeks and I don't have all the answers, but I have been with her for 8 years, 8.5 years. So, and we've been through a lot in that time. So, while I don't have a ton of experience, I have some, and I strongly believe that, I don't go into anything thinking it's going to be easy or perfect. Nothing. And that way I'm just prepared for what comes. And it's worked for us, for my wife and I, and here we are now, and we did it, and we're finally married after almost a decade. Yeah. Sorry, I rambled
No, you're
a lot.
good. You were mentioning though in the beginning about like that the hardship transition period out of college. How did you get yourself back on your feet?
So, oh man, yeah. So in college, um, I had I had a ton of close family members pass away in college. It was very strange. I had two uncles. I had all four of my grandparents. I had another aunt. All pass away in like 2 years. And then at the very end of college, my girlfriend at the time, we dated for about 8 years. We broke up. And then about a year after that, my dad passed away. So, and this was all when I was graduating college. So like I felt, to me, life was crumbling down. It was really really hard time in my life. Um, I got out of so yeah. This all happened when I graduated. I was in such a bad place at the time. I did not even apply for jobs. I just couldn't even get myself to apply for jobs. Um, and so you asked how I got through it. The way I got through it, to be totally honest with you, is I spent my whole life before that building strong friendships. I value my dad instilled in me that the most important thing in life is relationships with people, even people you don't even know. Just being kind to people. There's a lot of hate in this world, a lot of judgment and nastiness, and so the only way to make this world a better place is to be nice to each other. So I spent my whole life building friendships with my group of friends, my teammates, my coaches. And so when I was in a dark place, I leaned on those people. I leaned on those people that I built relationships with, that I worked really hard to build relationships with. Um, I have a big group of friends that we've all known each other since we were about 5 or 6 years old. So we've known each other for about 30 years. We all grew up in the same neighborhood and went to elementary, middle, high school together. And so I leaned on them. A big one for me was my old high school coach. He was he's just a great man. Just a great person. I'm going out with him to talk about coaching next week. We're gonna go out for dinner, but um, at the time, so I didn't apply for jobs. So now I'm home. I'm just kind of sitting on my butt, kind of moping around. I'm sure my parents were worried about me. My mom was worried about me. But then my old coach, he knew that I was going through a hard time. So he called me up and he got me a job in the high school that I went to as a teacher's aide. So, I wasn't making a ton of money, but I needed to get out of the house. I needed a routine. And he knew that. I think my mom actually talked to him. And that's, looking back on it, it's kind of cool that they had a relationship too. They were close and they would talk about me and my brother and what's best for us. And they took care of us. But so my coach called me up, got me a job at the old high school that I went to, and started working as a teacher's aide. And it was really good for me to get out of the house. It was really, I needed it. And then, I slowly kind of just that going to work, being around kids. I wasn't coaching yet, but I was still in the classroom, being around kids. Like I said, a big group of friends, a wonderful family. I mean, I have the best family there is, and so they got me through it. So it wasn't anything I did. It was those people I love in my life that got me through it. But I guess what I did do is I did all the years before that. I did work very hard to build those strong relationships, and it paid off because those people got me through my darkest times. Um, and so I'm proud that I've worked hard to maintain friendships with those people. Um, you know, friendship is not easy. Love is not easy. It takes work, and so luckily, I had that strong foundation of people, and that's who got me through it. I mean, that's who got me through it. And then the following year, the end of that school year, I got a job offer to teach, at Glenmar West, where I met Kalen. And then it all fell into place. And then I started working, and then I started coaching and found my dream job, started becoming happy again and enjoying my work. And then I met Julianne, and then here we are. So, but it was a struggle, man. It was definitely a struggle. But thank God for other people. I needed other people to help me get through that time. So,
And I can attest to all those, like, Nuge values relationships a lot. And Nuge personally, you know, he's been my coach. Been a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. So it's I'm realizing now how grateful I am that you helped me through all those
Thanks.
times. And
Well, you reminded me of, I mean, I talk to my friends and my family about my job, and Kalen, they all know about Kalen from when I coached you and taught you, and even now, we still have a relationship. But when you were struggling with things in high school, I saw a lot of me and you, different types of issues, but I saw a kid with tons of passion for the sport and pride in the program and the team and the school, and your dream get cut short because of injuries, and bad luck. And I knew how much you were hurting. I saw it every day. So when you were going through those things, I was kind of flashing back to myself when I was going through a dark time, and I just remember how much I needed people. So I try to be there for you and any other kids that go through those things. But you were a probably one of the strongest relationships I've made as a coach, as a teacher, because we've been through a lot together. But I always admired your ability to bounce back and your resiliency and your ability to stay positive despite one negative after another, bad news after bad news after bad news. And what's cool about my job is, like, I'm here to help my athletes, but they help me as well. I mean, Kalen's journey and perseverance inspired me to stay positive and strong and fight through things. And so that relationship goes both ways. But I see a lot of you. I see a lot of me and you. I do. And we're obviously very different people, but there's a lot of similarities there. And I know you value those things as well. And I think everyone should. I think that's the key to, I guess, a happier society. At least a place to start.
All right. I have something that might be a little nostalgic.
Oh.
Chip gave it to me.
Oh, sure.
Do you want to watch it?
Sure.
I've been thinking about this day for probably over 3 years now.
So this is right after our senior cross-country season. Everything built to this moment. This is my speech to Nuge, my coach. To put into context, like, we just finished a kind of, pinnacle of my high school cross-country career, and everyone in my class. And then also in the days after, one of my close friends and father passed away. So there's just a lot of emotion in the air. And then this is the speech to Nuge. I haven't watched this since this day, so I have no idea what I say. I just remember I was really nervous.
Since we, as freshmen, saw these wonderful seniors just come up here and, like, talk about the sport and how much it's meant to them, but it's been a while, and I've knew this day would come where I had to come up to the podium and deliver a speech capable of personifying what a unique collection of these remarkable people have done for my life. This team is the biggest sense of belonging and purpose I've ever felt, and has taught me lessons I will use for the rest of my life and pass on to anyone willing to listen. The team has taught me what it means to be dependable, to hear the alarm ring and look outside, to see the sun in town still hours from waking up, to stand up to aching legs and an exhausted mind, and yet knowing there's nothing in the world you'd rather be doing, because this sacrifice is not for yourself, but it's for all of us. Over these 7 seasons, spending so much of your time with a single group of like people, all experiencing similar hardships and successes, chasing one goal, bond you closer than you could ever imagine. I'm sure a day won't pass for the rest of my life where I don't think about all the beautiful memories I've had with all the people on the team. I remember back to earlier over the summer when our reporter for the team was interviewing the captains for the season. And he asked, so what kind of team bonding do you guys have planned for the season? And Ted and I looked at each other sort of confused. And like, why would you need to have to plan team bonding? Until Ted found the words, we just hang out together because we like being together. There's nothing for us, it's just that we like each other. And Bill gave us sort of an equally confused look to how strange the answer was. And thinking back to this, I realized that this team is something special. Through the many schools that he has reported on, our answer is the one that caught him off guard. And I think that I'm talking for all of us when I say that Ted's response is all that of the truth. We aren't like many other teams regardless of the sport. And that's why I think we've accomplished what we have. There are two men in particular especially responsible, and that's Coach Frazier and Coach Nugent, and also Coach Bennett, who have helped build the culture that we thrive off of. Most people don't know how far this program has come since Frazier's and Nuge's arrival, as up until 2012 he had not made it to a state meet since 1978. That's 34 years, with a 20-plus year stretch of not even making it out of the region. And Nuge changed them. Nuge ran on a Lombard South state champion team that had the sense of brotherhood that is still so deep it holds up today. On the way to meets, Nuge will often talk about his old crew meeting up this Sunday for a run just like old times. Or I remember coming home from the bus on the way home from Blackwell workout this year when Nuge saw one of his old competitors from high school. This led to Nuge reminiscing on what some of his best and most proud times as a person on this planet were in high school and is running on his team. Nuge has continued that sense of lifelong camaraderie onto this team now, and I'm sure his old Lombard South teammates are so proud of him for accomplishing that feat. And I know this because Nuge's friends will show up to our meets and his old coach comes by to our practice to help with a fundraiser to support our team. It's quite amazing how much of a likable guy Coach Nuge is, and that's truly because he cares about everyone in his life, and that's why he's such a great teacher, coach, and man. Nuge may be one of the only people in the world who knows my full story. Nuge may be the only person who's known the heights I've reached and the lows I've hit along this journey of triumph and injury. The reason he knows this is because he came to me every single day to help in any way he knew how. And I was very quiet in my early days in high school, intimidated by truly letting go of my guard and expressing my deepest thoughts. Freshman year, I was a varsity guy all season, leading up to a 5th place finish at the state finals for our team in cross country. Later in April, during track, still as a freshman, I got diagnosed with stress fracture of the lungs. Biking every day as hard as I could to return in time for the team to help my sophomore year in cross country, only to come back with another worse stress fracture weeks later. The one thing I loved most took taken right out of my grasp. Now, after missing and qualifying for the state meet as a team, partially because I hadn't been able to run, was tearing me apart as we headed into a dark, lonely winter. Nuge sought me out every single day because he knew I was struggling and he could help. There was one day especially where we met, I think it was after school, and I honestly just broke down, crying, talking to Nuge, and it's probably the only time I've ever done that in front of another person. I questioned to why I would keep trying if I was just going to fail and fail and fail again. And Nuge told me some similar sorrows injury had given to him and assured me giving up was not the way out. He helped in every way he could to get a smile on my face and me back on my feet. He went out of his way to help me, a kid he hardly knew at the time, because he cared profoundly about me. And I'm not an exception. Nuge will give his all for anyone, and that's what makes Nuge Nuge. And after all these years and years of injuries and all the ups and downs, many people have asked me why I still run. And everything I've gone through this sport has led me to this point, and to state simply, is because I love seeing people break through doubts and accomplish their wildest dreams. And while I haven't been able to reach the goals I once had for myself, that I have developed new goals, and I've loved guiding the people on this team through their own roller coaster of a ride, and as Nuge once did for me, and is still doing. And seeing people, all my peers around me achieve what others thought to be impossible is inspiring. And I'm also inspired by Nuge's dedication and compassion to what he loves and the legacy and growth of this amazing team has helped create. and knowing that he will be a friend of all of us forever. Thank you all.
That was very good. That's good, Kalen. That's one of the best speeches I've ever heard. That was great.
I held it together for most.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, flashing back. That was 4 years ago.
Holy
Then,
cow.
right? About, yeah.
Because it'd be feet 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
You look
Yeah.
young.
You do too. Yeah, it's. I remember you coming. You were mentioning when you came in after school that one day and broke down. I remember that vividly. I remember all that. I remember all those. Yeah, all those things, man. It was crazy. So you had quite the path through high school with so many obstacles. You had it tough. That was. Whew, yeah. It's crazy watching that. It does feel like a whole lifetime ago.
I felt like I was back there.
But I don't know. I think you when you suffer heartbreak like you did, usually when you come out on the other end, you have a whole new perspective on things, and you can tell. I can tell in that speech that you get it. I think you understand what's important. And you're talking about compassion and relationships and building those things. People, just people, right? And you know, when you have your heart broken, whatever it is, sports or you know, romantically or whatever it is, it has a way of changing you. And I think you came out the other end so much more mature with a great perspective. And it's impressive to see a kid that young be so mature, and you know, everything you went through. It's just there's a reason why all my friends know about Kalen, because you have a great story. And I like talking about it. And your speech was amazing. That was excellent. Good times, man. Yeah, good times.
Jeez.
Yeah. So what else you got?
I'm just trying to frost. I haven't heard it in so long.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. My hair, crazy.
I miss that hair.
The afro hair.
The afro with the band.
Dreadlocks.
The dreads and the
it was
bands.
crazy.
Oh yeah, the phases of Kalen. Yeah.
Okay, I got a fan question from Manib.
Oh
right?
sure.
All right, it's not on there. But
Okay.
It's up here.
Got it.
But he was very interested in the evolution of students since the beginning of your time at teaching to the end, or to like the most recent. Like, how have you seen students change? Is there more cliques, less cliques? Is there more political influence? Is there more divisive, more community? Is people getting more distracted more easily? How have people evolved over the 12 years ish?
Mm-hmm. Yikes. All right. Well, so when I started teaching 12 years ago, I was only freshmen, pretty much only freshmen. Now I teach only seniors. So that in itself is throwing in another variable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always been great differences between freshmen and seniors. So that's, you know, a maturity thing. Overall, I'd say that, you know, so I taught for like 9 or 10 years, and then COVID happened, and now here we are, I don't know, 3 years after it? I've lost track. The biggest shift or change in students I've seen is what I think is due to COVID. I see kids more reluctant to get involved. I see kids. The biggest thing that I see, and I'm not trying to sound like an old fart, but just technology distractions with kids is and it's hard to blame them. You know, who doesn't like scrolling their cell phone or whatever? But it is now pretty much, all schools around here have one-to-one technology programs, so each kid has their own iPad or Chromebook or whatever. So and we use them in class all the time, right? And so they're always, the kids almost always have them out in front of them, and when they're supposed to be doing work, schoolwork on the iPad, many are not. And again, I get it. That's a temptation that's hard to resist when you can scroll Instagram or Facebook because you're holding on to the device already during class. But that I think we're seeing that across the board. I think adults are more distracted because of technology as well. When you're driving in your car, look at the cars next to you and see who's on their cell phone while they're driving, right? So that's something we're seeing across the board. But in the classroom, it can be challenging to hold their attention, to catch their attention with those distractions that are there. Obviously, in the last 7 years, there's been some more extreme political ideas floating around. I see that in some parents. I see that reflected in some parents recently, voicing frustrations or issues or whatever that seem to be maybe slightly politically motivated. I don't see it much with kids. I think kids are there's a lot of activism, which I think is awesome. A lot of kids are paying attention to some social issues or environmental issues, paying more attention to those issues, which is great. So yeah, I guess I'm seeing more of that, but nothing that screams out loud in the school politically, I guess, from the students. But I do see more activism, kids going downtown for rallies and parades and protests and things like that. But I think the biggest shift is due to COVID. The biggest change in students over my time has happened not over the last 12 years, but over the last 3 or 4. And I think it's because of COVID. And I think kids lost social skills, or their social skills are rusty. The classroom, now that we're back in the classroom and we do group work and stuff, kids don't know each other. They don't know each other. And so there's less, that dynamic is a little bit subdued. It's a little bit more, it's a little quieter in the classroom because kids are not engaging in conversation as easily as they used to. And I think it's because they just, not as many kids know each other because they've, for the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been doing school at home in their house. So I hope that those things will fade away as we continue to have school inside the building, and we continue to build, team building and teamwork skills within our classroom. And now that sports are going again, so I hope those things go away, those issues. But that's where I think the biggest problems was distractions, academic distractions, keeping kids from doing well in school, and also, and probably more importantly, is just the social disconnect when kids are trying to communicate and get to know each other in the classroom. They're just a little bit more hesitant now, probably because they're a little bit more shy because they don't know each other. So that's what I would say. But I'm excited, now that we're back into normal school, I'm excited to hopefully help resolve those issues and get kids back to having fun in school again.
Oh. How was the teaching experience during COVID? Because I know there's a lot of professions that were affected heavily by COVID or experience a lot of burnout now. Is that a feeling amongst your peers or yourself, or is it just been something you've had to work through?
Well, it's something you got to work through. Because I love teaching too much to get out of the profession. I mean, it would take a lot to get me to quit teaching at this point. That being said, it was hard. It was very hard. And really, well, here's what I think was the hardest. The hardest part was it took the fun out. I mean, I think everybody does their job better when they're happy and having fun, right? I mean, I don't care what you do for a living. If you internally, you as a human being are healthy and happy and mentally active and you're having fun, I think that's when people do their best work. And no teachers started teaching. I mean, people chose to be teachers to work with kids in person, to get to know them, to make a difference in their life. And when we were doing stuff virtually, you just can't do that. You can't connect with kids like that. I mean, most kids didn't even have their video on during the Zoom. So I had kids that year who I never saw their face, not once. They were online the whole school year, and they didn't never turn their camera on, and I never saw their face. Hardly even talked to them through the computer. And so, teaching is not just another job to make money. It is an investment in kids' lives and the community. And so, teachers want to teach. They want to do their thing in front of kids. They want to get to know the families of those kids. They want to interact in person, and so that's what makes teachers happy and have fun, and that helps us do our job well. And so the biggest thing during COVID for me was just losing all of that. It became more of a business meeting on Zoom, as opposed to a fun part of childhood for these kids. School is academic and social. It is. It is. It's where kids learn a lot of their social talents and abilities and learn how to make friends, as well as all of the academic subjects they're learning. And during COVID, it became much harder to do both of those things. I teach science, and my classes are based on in-person labs, collaborative work between students, getting their hands dirty and doing experiments in person. And when you take that out of science, it's not as fun, and it's hard to teach it and make it fun for kids. And so, and I know it sounds cliche, but yeah, COVID took the fun out of teaching. And when you do that, kids lose motivation. Teachers aren't doing probably their best work because they're not having as much fun as they would be in person. And like I said, kids lose motivation, and that's why it was tough. But I will say, we got through it. I mean, it's kind of a blur, but we got through it, and here we are now, and we're really close to being back to normal, pretty much back to normal, and so it might take some time to break the bad habits that we learned during COVID, but I think we're already on our way to doing that. So it was a tough time, and I'm talking from a teacher's perspective. I know that every profession, every child have their own story to tell of how COVID affected them. That's my story, and I am very, very happy to be back in person. I love my job, no matter what, but I love it much more when we're in person. So, we just started summer, and I love summer, but now that we're back in person, I'm ready to go back and teach any day. I mean, I could start next week, honestly, because my job's fun. My job's fun when we get to go into the school building and teach in person. So, but yeah, what a crazy last few years. Yeah.
I think one distinct memory I have that I think I'll have for the rest of my life was like we were probably in your classroom after school, and you were talking to me how we would do a few times a week even, and you told me that we were talking about my parents and my family life and like all these other things that were kind of negatives in my life at that point, or just like not good relationships, whatever it was, and you were saying how everything in life is connected, and if you have good relationships with your parents and your family and with school and with all these other aspects of your life, you're going to run faster. The thing you actually really like is going to be so much better just if you have that together. And that's something that like when you said it, I was like, like, come on. And then now I'm really starting to realize how true it is. It's got to be.
I remember that conversation vividly. I remember. I have very strong memories of that conversation. you were probably the most talented runner we ever had coming in as a freshman, and so your the expectations were for you were so high, and I still think if you never got injured, you would have been a multiple time All-State. I mean, you were 15:40 as a freshman for 3 miles, but you were it was your whole life, and everything in your life revolved around it. That's okay if things go very, if you have no issues ever, that's okay. But the problem is with life, issues always come up. And when you got hurt, really hurt, you had some really serious injuries. We were all worried about you and how it would affect your overall mental health because all you cared about was running at that time. And you were hurt for a long time and you couldn't run. So I remember talking to you about balance in your life and how it's amazing that, like you said, all these different parts of your life, it's like a big spider web, right? They're all slightly connected. They all impact, every aspect of your life impacts another aspect of your life, even slightly. And you were so focused on one thing, and that one thing wasn't going well at the time, that you were depressed because your life was falling apart from the perspective of a 15-year-old because your whole life was running. So yeah, I remember that conversation. And I think even when, I'm telling you that advice, I'm also telling myself too, to remind me of those things. Because, I struggle with things all the time too, but having, again, and this just goes back to how close I think we are, and you're telling me I've helped you with so many things. You've helped me with so many things. When we have those talks, I'm learning too, and it's healthy for me as well. But at that point in time, I was just trying to get you to see, to try to get some balance in your life, to focus on you. For you, it was time to take a little break from running. Physically, you had to because you could barely walk. But you needed to take a break mentally too. Otherwise, you were never going to bounce back running wise. And so I was just trying to get you to focus on, let's get the other parts of your life. Let's get those in order. Let's take care of that stuff now because we can. We have time right now because you're not going to be running for a while. And then, and when you do that and you start handling other parts of your life, now your spirit is kind of rising and you're getting a little bit happier and more motivated and more proud of yourself. And then all of a sudden the plan was then all of a sudden you're healthy again, a few months later, and life is just overall, kind of better than it was before. And then other things start clicking and following suit. And so, but I do believe it's you got to have some balance in your life. We all have our hobbies or passions that we really love and want to spend most of our time doing, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And for you were so focused on running. We needed to spread out that focus and that passion to get a break and to improve your life in other ways. So, and then when it was time to come back to running, you were ready and that kind of thing. But, I get focused on oftentimes on one goal or, one specific thing. And it's, in my opinion, that's never good. Balance is key. And for Kayla, for you, I mean, you were so invested in one thing and you needed, and you've since then you have branched out and you have all of these interesting, fun things you do with your life, and it's healthy. It's good to see that. But at that time I was worried about you because that's all you cared about was running, and running was not going well because of your injuries. So, anyways, it's fun talking about this stuff because I haven't, life moves quick, and every year I have a new set of kids to teach, and so it's been a while since I've thought about your time in high school. So I'm going on and on and on because all these memories are coming back to me now. But I remember that conversation very well, and I was worried about you. I was. We were concerned about you, and we wanted you to see the big picture and just be happier because you were going through a really, really hard time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
oh, hey. You got that's like the original. Because this was the remake.
Oh, there's a remake.
Yeah. Or no, this is the remake. I'm sorry. This is the original. You have the remake.
I have the remake.
Yeah, I think
Moats
made it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But it's that time of year.
Yeah.
Cross country's in the air.
Yes, it is.
How do you deal with the unpredictability of how talented a new group of kids is going to be coming in, and how do you adapt to, sometimes you have 5 kids that are going to be collegiate runners, and sometimes you have 5 kids that's moms force them to do a sport.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is something I've really had to get better at over the years. So when I'm extremely competitive. So when I ran, and when I was in high school, running was the perfect sport for me because you're competing with yourself and against your opponents as well. And I was lucky enough to have a great team and a great coach. And I started coaching at a young age, and I still had that competitive, just fierce competitiveness in me. That was good for things, but also bad for things. And I was too focused early on the end result, on getting to state. When I started coaching, like you saw in your speech, we had not qualified for state as a team. Glenbard West has not qualified for a state since '78. So it had been, when I took over, it had been about 32 years or something, 33, 34 years since we qualified. And all I was focused on was getting downstate, just the end result, right? My third year coaching, we made it down. It was a huge deal. It was awesome. But I have totally pulled back on, I will always be competitive, but I have pulled back on focusing on the end result. It's all about hanging out with these kids. We said before, people do their best work when they're happy and having fun. Well, kids are no different. I want my kids, running is a tough sell. There's not a lot of glory in running. Our football program is really, really good, right? You could be a part of that team and get all the glory you want, even if you don't really play much. But that team that program is so good. They go deep in the playoffs every year, and they get, and the pep rallies, and the community goes to the games. We don't get a lot of people coming to our meets. So our kids don't get a ton of publicity or glory. So my job is to make practice every day. It's to make running 10 miles fun. So how do you do that? That's tough. But that's my goal now. That's all I focus on every single day. And listen, if my kids develop as runners, then I did my job. If they end up, like you said, at a state, at an all-state level, or a squad develops over a few years, and by the time they're seniors, they are talented. They have put in the work, and they're going to lead our team to a great state meet. And that's fun, of course. And I've been lucky enough to have some really, really good teams. Kalen was on a few of them. But if my kids develop still, and they end up being still average or even below average, but they've developed because they've done it the right way and they've had fun the whole time. Honestly, at this point in my career, 13 years into it, that to me, that's as good as going downstate. When you go downstate, the season lasts an extra week or two, and you get to stay in a hotel with your guys and go out to eat, and it's a ton of fun. So obviously, that's a goal of our team, is to always get downstate. But I have taken a lot of emphasis off that and put a lot more emphasis on, let's work hard every day, but let's have a lot of fun. And let's just kind of see where it takes us. You can't control, Illinois, high school cross country in Illinois is about as good as it gets in the whole United States. I mean, it is about as good as it gets. I can't control how good other teams are. You have no control over the competition. So let's worry about us. Let's work really hard, but let's have a lot of fun. Now let's show up the next day, and let's show up the next day and keep showing up. And then you just see what happens. You know, for me the greatest pleasure is when you get a group of runners who aren't very talented as freshmen, and then that team develops a ton over 4 years, and by the time they're seniors, maybe they can qualify for state. You know, we've had kids come in as freshmen, and you can tell they're studs. Your time was a great time for our program, because your grade and the grade below, I mean, a lot of extremely talented kids. We knew when these guys were freshmen that they were going to be great. And that makes the job easy. But it's really fun when you see kind of some average to below average kids improve and just get better. And maybe they're not going to be, you know, they're not going to help the team get top 10 in the state, but they'll give you a shot to qualify for state, right? And so it's nice getting those surprises when you see kids that don't have a ton of talent that work their butt off and become pretty good runners. And, you know, those to me, those are the most fun, those stories, because you don't see it coming. You know, who doesn't like a nice surprise? When the kids come in as studs, as freshmen, there's a lot of pressure. Sometimes that takes away some of the fun, because you're expected, you know, if you don't run great one weekend, everyone's questioning you and wondering, why didn't you guys run as well as you should have, or whatever. So, and that scenario is fun in its own way too. I try to find a way, no matter what the scenario is, the talent level of my runners, I have a good way of spinning everything into a positive. And every single thing that happens in life has a silver lining. Sometimes you got to kind of convince yourself of it, or maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but you can always find some positive in even the darkest of negatives. You can always find some silver lining to hang your hat on and focus on. And I think I've gotten good at forcing myself to see the silver lining. And I always focus on that. I do not dwell on the negatives. So I'm rambling again, but no matter what the dynamics are in your group of kids, right, or the talent level, you got to find, the coach, you got to find that silver lining, and you got to play on that, and you got to, you know, bank on that to make your kids happy and healthy and having fun, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Sweet.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I mean, it's been an hour.
Has it?
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a vet appointment for Zoe.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank
Kalen.
you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks, man. It was fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good catching up.